This is an onomy podcast.
Hey guys, welcome back to the pod. What are our listeners called? What do I call you? Hey, growers. Growers, not showers. Hey, grown adults. I don't know. We'll come up with something. I got nothing. Welcome back to the pod. This is Growing Up with me. And today I'll be talking with someone about a topic that we all need to grow up with. Myself very much included in that. I'm going to be talking with Tori Dunlap. Her account on TikTok is a massive financial education account called Her First 100K. And she is a millennial finance expert educating the rest of us on how to create financial freedom. She's done it herself. At 25, she made her first 100K in savings. And from there, she's gone on to make more and create a platform lifting all of us up into our own financial freedom and breaking down some of the blocks we have around money and wealth and finance. And she's written a New York Times best-selling book called Financial Feminist. It's not just for women. It's for all of us because any gender could be a feminist. That's right. I was very glad to talk with her because, as I'm sure many of you feel, money's a weird, emotional, private, uncomfortable topic in our lives. We all want it. We all need it. No matter how much we have, most of us want more of it. And for many of us, it can feel really overwhelming and difficult to even know how to get at it, which is why we kind of have wishful thinking around winning the lottery and like gambling our way to financial freedom. But really it's about delayed gratification and educating ourselves on what we don't know and taking small steps towards it as often as we can. And I myself am learning this at the ripe age of 31. And I think it's a journey for all of us, a lifelong journey. But I think all of us want to get to a place where we feel financially free. Not that you need $1 billion. I don't want $1 billion. I don't need all that. I think to get that, you have to exploit people or work your life away, or I don't even know. I don't need all that. I just need enough to feel free. I just need enough to not feel anxiety at how I'm going to cover certain bills, my rent. I just want to feel free enough to travel when I would like to, and to not feel like I have to do things that sacrifice my own dignity or self-worth because I need a paycheck. And I think that's a place many of us are, and I think all of us have wants to be financially free. And it's just going to take us, taking some steps, being willing to not know, being willing to be uncomfortable, and get in the game in taking responsibility for our own finances. So if that's something you want, it's something I want, I think you'll enjoy this conversation with Tori Dunlap. I know I did. Let's break down some of our myths around money, and let's get out of our own way in making it. And Tori's going to help. So enjoy the conversation. Hi, Tori
Hi.
Dunlap.
It's so nice to meet you.
It's very nice to meet you as well.
It's very bizarre to meet somebody I had a crush on when I was like 10 years old.
How is this for you?
It's great. I was thinking about this, again, interviewed Christy when we were talking about it, of like, you guys gave up your childhoods for folks like me.
Yeah.
And like, beautiful and also really fucked up. Am I allowed to curse?
You are absolutely allowed to curse.
Cool.
I can't stop cursing.
But like, what a gift, and also how screwed up for you all.
I mean, screwed up for many. For me, it's all I want and all I still want. So
interesting.
I didn't give up. I mean, I also had a weird version where like I would go back to Georgia where I'm from after filming a season of Ned's and go to public middle school for half the year.
Yeah.
So I kind of had the best of both worlds for a long time. And granted, there's weirdness that comes with being a child actor for sure. There's ways I'm fucked up that normal kids don't have.
Yeah.
But we're all fucked up from childhood, aren't we?
Yeah, a lot of trauma.
Yeah.
The big T trauma, the little T trauma.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I honestly had the best version I think I could have of the child acting path.
It's really good to hear.
Yeah, and I'm grateful for it because I hear my peers coming out with their versions of things, and it's heartbreaking.
Can I ask you a question about... So I was
can.
a theater major.
Okay.
And that shocks a lot of people that now I'm a finance expert and I majored in theater. And that was going to be... I was like, I'm going to be an actor. I studied acting, did that as a kid, and then it was like first show at the age of 5, show every year.
Yeah.
Did all of, had the agent, had all of that.
Yeah.
And then I was in college and I was like, I picked the stable option because even though I love it and I still love it, I was like, I need to pay my bills and I need to do all of these things. And of course I was reading about you of like, had this career and then what now? What do you do after that? Was that at what point were you like, okay, this isn't going to work anymore?
I mean, I'm still working it. Look, I'm doing a fucking podcast. I'm still in media.
Yeah. Because it was a struggle I had of this thing that I love so very deeply.
Yes.
That I have now not done since I was 22, since like my senior capstone role in college.
Yeah. And if you love it, you love it. So that's cool to know. I didn't know you were an acting major. Like, that makes me feel some good like kinship with you. Because if you love that thing, it's in you and it gives you energy and it lights you up to do it.
Yep.
I think it's brilliant that you went and chose a stable path.
But I'm never sure if it was the right option.
You never will be.
Yeah.
We never will be. I'm not sure, but I'm going to continue on the unstable artist path for the rest of my life, I think.
Yeah.
Even though at times it gets intense and I have to weigh it and I have to go, do I feeling this unstable with creating my life and building my life? Do I still want to do this? Because at any point I could go try and I think I could succeed at anything. So I could just go on something stable and take away some of this angst. Because especially with money, that's the biggest one.
Right.
I could pursue my art forever in peace if money wasn't an issue, if my survival wasn't an issue.
Right.
But when money and survival is attached to something that you're never guaranteed.
And healthcare and
Yeah, all of it. And you're never owed it. Like I think in any other vocation or profession, if you get good at it and you work hard at it over time, it's gonna happen.
With privilege, but yeah.
Yeah, but if you put the time into something, typically you will progress, at least in some capacity.
Right, but the arts, I think, are the lovely, unique thing where you're hitting the pavement all of the time, and it's
never owed to you.
Never.
It still takes luck and grace for it to come through. So that aspect,
and right place at the right time, and knowing the right people, and being a nepo baby, like
all of
those things.
Like all of that is a part of it. And so I can never bank on like what I'm gonna make, and that does create a level of like emotional anxiety, instability.
I was always
all those
worried
things.
I was going to resent it. Like if I couldn't pay my bills, would I grow to resent the thing that I love so much?
Yeah, and it's possible.
Yeah,
I've resented it at times.
Yeah.
But even that you have to fucking get out of because it doesn't help you get anywhere.
No.
It's just toxic.
No.
Even the resenting, you go like, well, I gotta like not take this personally and like figure out my life.
Right.
So I ran out of money at 25, and man, I just had to go get jobs. It was like, oh, well, I need to go get jobs now.
Yeah.
Like that's it. I need to go get an hourly job and just start there because right now I have zero money.
Do you get residuals?
Not for Ned's Declassified.
I figured.
Yeah. Nickelodeon doesn't pay residuals to any of their leads.
Cool.
Yeah. Pretty insane. Pretty insane, right?
Yeah, any quote unquote like adult show, you're gonna get residuals. You're gonna get maybe like a $7 check, but you'll get residuals.
Yeah, and for a show that ran for 10 years all over the world, like
Right.
residuals would have been nice. Tell me about your journey. So, all right, so you were an acting major.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
And
I love that.
communications. Like I got basically a marketing degree, and then I also did theater.
Yep.
And I mean, yeah, the goal was to be an actor, and then I got into college, and my parents gave me a financial education. That was such a privilege. If they sat me down and were like, okay, here's what a budget looks like. Here's how to be responsible with a credit card. And they always picked the stable option,
Yeah.
which I'm very thankful for. But like, it was so interesting growing up in that environment where, the stable option was the 9-to-5 job and the 401k and the healthcare.
Yeah.
And so literally I remember we had a conversation, I was entering college of like, I want to major in theater. And my parents are like, you're great, you're talented, we love you, but that's not practical. So you need to find something else. And then you do theater on the side. And then I realized, I can double major at no extra cost. Okay, I'm going to do that. So I graduated college in May of 2016.
Okay.
And Trump gets elected, of course, not soon after that. Mm-hmm. And I'm coming into adulthood and into womanhood in a very different country than I think a lot of us expected. I'm 22. I've decided, okay, marketing like scratches the acting itch of like storytelling and communicating.
Creating,
Right. So I'm going to do that. And yeah, you have this fantasy of, okay, I'm going to work my way up the corporate ladder. It's shifted. Okay, if I'm not going to be an actor right now.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna succeed and be ambitious and successful and wear pencil skirts and heels, and that's how I know it's a fantasy because I've never owned a pencil skirt in my goddamn life. And it was so interesting because I got into corporate, and within 2 weeks I was like, oh, this is awful. Like the rose-colored glasses came off of like, oh, it's super misogynistic. I am making somebody I don't respect rich.
Yep.
I am, I have to ask how much vacation time I can take, and I was just like, I don't want to do this. Is this? I think a lot of like people in their 20s
Is
realize
this real life?
Is this real life? Is this what I'm going to do for the next 40 years?
Yeah.
And in the midst of course, this shift politically and socially, where I'm like, I'm coming into womanhood in a country where I thought we were going to have our first woman president.
Yeah.
And instead, of course, we didn't. And I'm reckoning with my own privilege, and I'm realizing like, when I have my financial shit together, I have options and choices. I have the ability to leave this bad job that I don't want to be in anymore. I have the ability to start a business. I have the ability to donate to causes I believe in, and to have kids or not have kids, or travel, or buy a house or not buy a house. And then I was the friend all of my friends were coming to for advice and guidance. And so her first 100K started as a blog in late 2016. It was like the origin story in 2019 was like me saving my first like 100K. So it was 100K at 25.
In savings.
Yes,
Yeah.
which was
like having it.
Yeah.
Yes.
And the joke was, as long as I do it the day before I turn 26, it still counts. So 25 years, 3 months, hit my 100K, go to Europe to celebrate with my best friend. I get the call for Good Morning America in a pub in London. I do the interview and I quit my job 3 weeks later. So her first 100K was a side hustle I was running in addition to like my social media marketing job and my 9-to-5. Now we have over 3.5 million people. We have a podcast that's one of the top business podcasts. I just released a book, which is now a New York Times bestseller, and it's so thrilling to be able to say that. Thank you. And we fight the patriarchy by getting women rich. So we're committed to teaching them not only how to pay off debt and save money and invest and negotiate their salaries, but really how to show up more confident. Because I don't think we have any sort of equality for any marginalized group until we have financial equality. And that's what I started to realize through my own life and also through the experiences of women coming to me was it's like, again, when you have money, you have the choice to be in situations you want to be in rather than situations you're forced to be in.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think one of the main desires of any of us is financial freedom.
Yeah.
Like, it's something, no matter how many big dreams and artistic visions I have for my life, a main desire of my life is financial freedom. And it's because of what you said. It gives you options. It gives you choice. You don't have to do things you don't want to do. You can actually kind of feel into your life and move where you want to move. And I mean,
play big. And
yeah, take risk when you want.
Right.
travel when you take time off when you want.
Right.
Like, yeah, I mean, it's freedom. Because
And unfortunately, like rest requires money.
it
Like deep rest requires money.
It absolutely does.
And this whole, I talk about it in my book of like, there's this narrative, right, that money can't buy you happiness. And that's complete and utter bullshit.
Yes, it is.
Like it's complete bullshit.
Yeah. Well, because of course, I know incredibly wealthy people who aren't happy.
Right. If I buy a Ferrari and I'm expecting that to make me happy, no. But like, does money buy stability and safety?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And not waking up with anxiety every day.
Right.
When I was out of money, and it took a couple years to even get where I'm at now, which is still not financially free, but I'm like not
Right.
freaking out every day.
You're not in complete scarcity deprivation mode.
Yes.
Yeah.
I was in full scarcity. Like couldn't buy fucking anything. Couldn't go do anything except work.
Yeah.
And go home and go to sleep and like
Right.
try not to have a mental breakdown. You
And
know?
that's the reality for literally millions of people.
That's what I was gonna say.
And the feeling I want, really for every person, but for me, like women, it's like I want the feeling of confidence that money gets you.
Yeah.
And again, I'm not talking like I don't want billions of dollars.
Yeah,
I don't need
that's not
billions
what
of
it's about.
dollars.
There's a certain
billionaires are fucked. Like I just want enough money to take care of myself, take care of the people around me, and hopefully start changing my community.
Yeah, that's why I think even your brand, her first 100K, like that's a great marker.
Yeah.
Even 100K that you have in savings, you're gonna feel
Like a branding expert. Thank you. And
pretty
that's why
fucking stable.
That's why it's not her first million.
Yeah.
It's just like whatever that 100K is for you. Maybe that's debt paid off. Maybe that's saved. Maybe it's earned. Maybe
Yeah.
it's net worth, right?
Yeah.
And there's the saying in personal finance that first 100K is the hardest.
Sure.
And so that's the idea is like if you get that first 100K, things start to feel easier.
Right. Now you have a lot more options of how to
Yeah.
grow it. Well,
And you've
'cause
got compound
I was
interest
gonna say
and-
money grows money. I mean, once
Right.
you're up there with your wealth, it just makes money fucking
Yeah.
sitting there. It's
Yeah.
the fucked part. Everyone
Crazy.
underneath it is struggling to get by
Yeah.
on their pennies, counting their fucking nickels. And like once you have it, it's just compounding and growing.
And that's the interesting part too about personal finance that I realized is plenty of people just want to talk about, oh, if you don't have money, it's because you're not working hard enough, right? It's the classic like bootstraps narrative.
Yeah.
And it's like the true personal finance equation is about 20% your personal choices
Yeah.
and 80% your circumstances.
Yeah.
Racism, ableism, sexism, homophobia, recession, inflation, a global pandemic, right?
Yeah.
I would argue that these have way more of an influence on your money
Yeah.
than you trying to navigate paying off debt yourself.
Yeah.
And of course, like even we talk about debt of like crazy that we ask 17-year-olds. John Mulaney has a great thing about this of like 17-year-olds to like sit down and like sign on the dotted line to spend like $120,000 to go to college to do something
Unbelievable.
that they have no idea if they want to do.
Unbelievable our
Nuts.
system with that. And it didn't exist until like what, 20, 30 years
Yeah.
ago? Did the price start to jack up?
Right, but
Like,
then there's things, before that of like, women couldn't get a credit card in their own name till 1974.
that's pretty insane.
Nuts.
Yeah.
Crazy. So like this has been going on forever.
Yeah.
And it's just really interesting that we feel such deep shame as individuals if we're not financially successful.
Oh, that's so real. That's so real. I mean, I definitely felt shame running out of money because I had it.
Yeah, and then you
I
didn't.
didn't.
And then you're like, what did I do wrong?
Yes.
Not like, wow, maybe as a child,
Yeah.
me making money
Yeah.
was eventually probably going to run out. And also like the expectation of that's supposed to just
Keep going.
Yeah.
That was the thing. I wasn't. I've like dealt with it, but I actually wasn't. Wasn't delusional. I was living the life that had gone on for like 12 years.
Yeah.
Was I'd make money.
Yep.
I'd live on the savings,
Yeah.
and then I'd book again, and
which
I'd
is
live on
very
the savings.
smart. And I'm not saying it's delusional, but
Yeah.
more
No.
the system or the society that's built that's like, it's not supporting anybody.
Yeah, there are things I wish I would have done, but I couldn't have learned it without running out.
Well, and you were way more responsible with your money than plenty of other.
It went for
Actors that I've talked to.
people think like, oh, how'd you run out of money? It's like, well, I lived on it for 10 years,
Also,
like in LA.
You, with all due respect, this is not a knock to you, but like
Yeah.
it's Nickelodeon.
No, that's
It's like
that's absolutely real.
They're not
It's
taking care of you.
No, and it's not as much money as you think it is.
Right, that's what I'm
I
saying
lived
is
on
it's
it.
like-
I it was not as much as you think. And then, I mean, cover yearly expenses for 10 years.
Oh, totally.
Runs out.
And the cost of living in the city and the
In
cost
LA,
of an
for
agent,
sure.
which can we talk about that if you're willing?
What's that?
The interesting part that I think is so veiled that I've now experienced firsthand, and that so many of like my actor or creator friends are experiencing. I think the average person thinks, okay, if you get, I don't know, $300,000 a year, like that's going in your pocket.
Oh, yeah. No, first you got taxes.
You have taxes, you have an agent who's going to take
manager.
10 to 20%. You have a manager who's going to take an additional. Maybe you have a publicist, right, who's also supposed to promote your work and is taking a cut. You know, if I show up as a woman, especially like to an event and my hair and makeup isn't done, well, I'm going to be deemed unprofessional. So I need to pay for that. And I need to pay for maybe a stylist and also clothes. And like, how much of that $300,000 is no longer yours?
For sure. Yeah, I remember I got a check one time from Ned's. Like, I remember I was a kid, and like my mom showed it to me, and showed me what came out in taxes, and it was
you're like
it was over 50% was taken out.
Yeah, sounds about right.
And I was like, over 50?
Which, like, I'm a socialist. I love paying my taxes, but also you're like, oh my God.
No, as I've gotten older, I'm like, pay
I need some
taxes.
roads. I need some libraries.
But just for me in my head as a kid,
totally.
it blew my mind. I'm like, more than I'm getting is already gone?
Yep.
That doesn't seem right.
Right.
That doesn't seem fair.
And then all of the additional expenses that just like people don't realize.
No, so much to live in the city. And just like you said, to be an actor, like, yes, you need clothes, you need to look good, you need marketing materials, you got your team, you got a lawyer, like all of these
God,
things.
the lawyers.
Yeah, lawyer takes some
I
too.
love
It's
my
like,
legal team, but oh my God, I see those bills come through and I'm like,
but you need it because you need them to deal with the contracts. Like, so,
right.
But acting is a really particular, the pursuit of acting is a really particular version of financial life. It also has more upside than any industry. Like a phone call could change my life at any point, and literally
Which
I'll
isn't
be
that
set
thrilling and also terrifying?
every day.
Yeah.
But most people are not on that path. So just in any form of finance, and probably in the more like standard forms, give me 3 tips. Give me 3 baseline tips for like starting your financial freedom journey.
Yep. First, give yourself a shit ton of grace. You were not taught this unless you were.
Right.
And I think we think we either have the good with money gene or we don't. Like I was a theater major.
Yeah.
And I'm doing fine. Like it's not a good with money gene.
Yeah.
Just like we don't come out of the womb like, I speak fluent Italian, I can play the tuba, yet we somehow feel, oh, I should know how to navigate this complicated financial system, and I should understand all of this. You're gonna fuck up for a while, that's okay. So just, shame is like the one human emotion that isn't productive. Like even the emotions that we associate with like negative or what we deem negative, anger, sadness, frustration, these are all productive.
Yeah.
Shame only makes you feel like shit.
Yeah.
Like it has no other purpose.
Yeah.
It is not helpful. And so if you can do everything you can as you're navigating money to give yourself grace and understanding and not shame yourself, it's going to be a better experience. And a lot of like financial experts want to gloss over that. But the truth is like I spend the entire first chapter of my book talking about the emotions of money, because you have to understand what sort of emotional triggers do you have? What sort of trauma do you have around money?
Yeah.
What has society been telling you? Like money can't buy you happiness, or talking about money's taboo, right? Yeah. And so understand that this is going to be hard for a while. You're going to suck at it, and that's okay as long as we're prioritizing progress over perfection. So that's the first thing.
Cool.
Second thing is you're going to automate everything you possibly can. Again, common, I think, theory or like feeling is like, oh, I get an extra gold star if I make this more difficult than it has to be. And it's like, the times where I'm like, oh, I'll remember that thing, and then I don't write it down. And I'm like, why didn't I just fucking write it down?
Yeah.
Same thing with like money. If you can automate your bills, automate your credit card statements, but also automate your savings. Like set up an automatic transfer from your checking account to your savings account that's going to happen without you even having to think about it. And even if that's $20 a month, one, again, it's accumulating. You're not having to actively do it. And you're also not waiting to the end of the month when you don't have any money left over.
Right.
And you're also building the habit, right? It's like building muscle of saving, so that hopefully when you do have more flexibility and do have more money, if you can manage $20, you can manage 2,000.
Yeah, and you're
20,
already used to that pattern.
Exactly. And we call it in the personal finance industry, like paying yourself first, right? It's like you're another bill and you're setting aside this money to be able to
pay your future self
right,
first.
right. Or pay, past
Pay
you
your
if
future.
you're in debt.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. And then the third thing is I always tell people you don't have to stop spending money. I just need you to stop spending money on shit you don't care about.
Yeah.
There is this, again, idea of like, oh, the only way I'm going to succeed financially is if I completely deprive myself. And it's like diets. Like if you tell me I can't have fried chicken, all I'm going to want is fried chicken, right? 99% of diets don't work. And so it's the same way with spending. It's not a willpower thing. It's like a literal psychology thing. If you tell me I can't do something, I'm just going to want to do it. It's not sustainable. So instead, we have to figure out not only where our money is going, but does it reflect our values? So if you haven't actually like sat down, and I know it's scary, but like look at your credit card statements or look at your debit card statements and be like, oh, interesting. Okay. Yep. I bought a round of shots for that entire bar. And I don't remember doing that, but it wasn't like my best moment. Right.
Yeah.
And again, no shame, no judgment. Just like you're an anthropologist in your own life and you're like, oh, I bought that pair of shoes I did not need and did not want because my boss made me feel like shit today. Interesting. Yeah. And then you can start to analyze, again, are these purchases bringing me joy? If they're not, you either get to spend that money instead on something that does or save it.
Okay. I'm taking all this in because I'm still a baby on my financial journey. And because I had it and it was taken care of by accountants and my parents.
Yeah.
And then my parents got divorced and all of a sudden, they had been saving for me. They had tried to set me up for the future, but once they got divorced, like they were dealing with their own lives.
Shit.
And all of a sudden, for the first time, all of the shit was on me and dealing with my accountants. And I had just never, they had taken care of it and it had never been sat down and taught to me. So that grace I've been trying to give myself the last few years. And when I was out and I couldn't spend any money, like just couldn't, I knew I couldn't. That is an awful feeling moving through the world. Yeah. If we lived in villages and, I could just... Communal, if I could just wake up and, like, go provide for the village just with my, like, hard work and, like, high-five my uncle and then, like,
that's not capitalist.
Walk and go play in the field. But that's true. That's the truth, is we don't live in that culture. I know I would do very well in a culture like that.
I think most people, I would argue all people would.
Yeah, because our biology is set up for it.
Right.
But we don't live in that world. We do live in a capitalist world, and that's okay. But what it means is money buys you options. Money buys you the ability to engage with this world. And when I couldn't at all, it sucked. You feel like you're not really a part of it except for your struggle. You're like, I'm not really a part of it. I'm just over here sucking. Again,
we think it's personal failure, right?
Yeah, it's hard for it to not feel like that because it's
capitalism.
Your personal life. I mean,
our worth in capitalism is tied to our productivity, our output, our money, right?
Sure.
Which is why I argue the system needs a complete overhaul. But that's the interesting thing is it's like, if you're not making money, what are you doing wrong? Not how is the system not supporting you?
Well, and if I'm not making money, then I can't go to that fun thing that I want to go to, and I can't participate in these amazing restaurants that are opening up in my city.
I can't drink a margarita without a side of guilt.
Exactly, yeah. And that I love that your first tip for financial freedom is that emotional component, because money is deeply emotional. Yeah. My mom has been financially stable for most of her life after college, but she grew up poor as shit. Yeah. And that has never left her. Just in the last couple years, she started to be like, well, I can't take it with me. I'm gonna buy us shit. And that has never been the case, even though she took a stable path, was an accountant, she did the stable thing, investing, all that stuff. But money for her, because as a kid, it was so traumatic and so difficult. Even when she's had it, even when she's been fine, there's this emotional component to spending money. And like I said, she's just now breaking through that. So that's 50 years later.
Can I try something with you?
Sure.
So first chapter of the book, we talk about, again, motions of money. And I ask people to reflect on their first money memory. Okay. And the first time, the first experiences we have with money typically shape the way that we view money for the rest of our lives. Okay. We actually know this from statistics that your money habits or your money view is actually cemented by age 7.
Wow.
And unless you work to change it, Like, that's how you're going to view money.
Crazy.
Isn't that wild?
Because money's not even a part of a 7-year-old's life.
Right. But like the trauma
Yeah,
or the
whatever
like
you got exposed
right.
to.
So like my money memory was literally like, I wanted to go see Annie the musical, and my mom told me, okay, if you want to go see Annie and you want a ticket, you need to save money. And I had an Altoids tin, and I put all of the money in there, and I was 5. I had no income source.
Yes,
So like it was not
allowance. Yeah.
Right. And it was not like, you know, me. It wasn't, if I didn't have the money, I wasn't able to go. The plan was always to buy me a ticket, but it was
But
this
they were
active,
teaching you,
right?
hey, you want to do this thing?
Plenty
Put
of other
money
people,
away.
the money memory is I watched my parents fight with money, or I went to buy school lunch and I realized I didn't have enough money. So if you're willing, I would love to know if you can remember yours.
Oh, man, my first money memory?
Well, I was thinking about your mom. Of
Yeah.
like, that is so common of like the way you grow up around money.
Yeah, well, my parents, they changed it. They both grew up poor.
Yeah.
And both went and got
My parents
accounting
too.
jobs and
Yep.
did stability. And then money for me was never an issue. Like
Yeah.
money that they provided what they didn't have,
Right, the
which
stability
was
of that.
which was my sister and I. That's why I'm like, man, think about money. Like I didn't really think of it.
Yeah.
I had an allowance and shit like that, but then also at 12, then I was on a TV show. So like,
Right.
like money for me, honestly, was always just around, and my parents, like, I was not a rich kid where I grew
Right.
up. We were middle class. We were just like middle of the road.
Right. You never wanted for anything.
But I never wanted for anything.
Yeah.
And they wouldn't buy us ridiculous things.
Yeah,
but,
I grew up the same
but
way, where it was like I
always
went to
just
really good
stability.
schools, but like I didn't do like that was my parents' investment.
Yeah.
Like 100%.
Yeah.
It was like, okay, we're not going to do these lavish things because we want her to take piano lessons.
Yeah.
And like, yeah.
No, money was always stable for me. That's why it hit me so hard when it was gone.
Yeah.
And my family was gone.
Well, but even that's interesting, right? Of like, okay, I didn't really have to worry about money until I did, and
Yeah.
then shit got fucking real.
Yeah, and I felt way behind.
Yeah.
I felt way behind on like, holy shit, I wish I knew some of this shit at 20.
So I'm on my book tour right now, and I
Yes.
did my event in LA, and we had a couple hundred people, and literally one of the incredible women, she was like, I feel like I'm behind. And I was like, hey, can the room be a little vulnerable for a second? Who feels behind? I'm not joking. Every single hand went up in that room. Like, this is so common. Everybody feels like they're behind.
Yeah.
Every single person.
Yeah,
And she was
it's
like,
scary.
I have my 100K at 30 and I feel like I'm behind.
Yeah.
And I it's not to like, negate her feelings, but everybody feels this way.
Yeah.
And it's so interesting. And I would argue it's partially because we're not having conversations about money.
I was just gonna say, that's why I'm glad with people
Thanks for
like-
having me on,
people
right.
like you and that there's a bunch of content around finance now. I think
Yeah.
it's amazing because that's the main reason we all feel behind is money was taboo. It was a private taboo, self-worth.
We will get
like,
naked with somebody before we'll ask them about money.
Absolutely. It's an uncomfortable
Wild.
conversation.
Wild.
What do you think are you gave 3 tips.
Yep.
What are 3 of the most common financial mistakes that people can make?
Yeah. One, I think, is this feeling of either complete deprivation when it comes to spending or like balling out all the time. And there is a balance that you can find between, taking care of yourself and also having fun now.
Yeah.
And I think with my 100K journey, like the question I get a lot is, it's like, oh, you lived on oatmeal, right, for 4 years. And I'm like, no, like I traveled internationally. I went out to eat. It was just finding that balance between, spending and saving.
Did you find it specifically with a budget? Is that how you find it?
And you just said the word budget like you'd say the word poop, which is
Yeah.
you're
That's
like,
how I feel
budget.
about it.
So budget isn't a dirty word, and I promise you it's not. I know you're
know.
like, everybody out there is like, budget and makes you want to throw up. I think of it as a permission slip
Yeah.
to spend unabashedly on the things that I love.
Yeah.
Because I know that I'm taken care of, right? Because we were talking about like margaritas with a side of guilt. Like,
Yeah.
nothing's worse than going to a beach somewhere and, having your drink and being like,
being guilty
oh, I
about
put
it.
this on a credit card.
Yeah.
And I can't afford this,
Yeah.
right? Like, I, again, want the feeling of the vacation and the fancy dinner with no sight of guilt.
Absolutely.
And so the budget is just like, they're like the bumpers in bowling of
Yeah.
just like, hey, we're giving you.
I know I'm in
right,
the good
gas
lane.
gauge in a car. It's like, cool, I'm going to go and have a fun drive and I'm not going to worry that I'm running out of gas.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
And so I teach in the book what I call like the non-budget budget, which hinges on automation. And that's why it's like my favorite thing is if you are automating your savings and taking care of that first, everything else falls into place. Because if you're doing the hard thing first, then the money left over in your bank account after your necessary expenses, you get to spend on whatever you want.
Right.
That's a budget. It doesn't have to be more complicated than that. I don't track every penny. I have Timothy Chalamet YouTube compilations to watch. Like, I'm not out here like,
I'm with you.
Thank you so much. I mentioned him so many times in the book, and at the event last night, I was like, no one liked Timothy Chalamet. I'm like, great, more for me. I know. Thank you. I love him so much. I agree.
He's one of the most brilliant actors, young actors we have right now. He's a rarity. He's beautiful.
I joke that this whole business is just like to get me one step closer. Like, fuck the financial fund. I don't care about that.
It's getting you closer.
I'm trying. I'm just gonna
so
same room. Yeah. Anyway, but yeah, like I got better shit to do. We all have better shit to do, and like the tracking every penny is just like not sustainable. And so it's
that's why budget's a dirty word for a lot of us.
Or you're like, I don't want to look at a spreadsheet. I don't want
to fucking look at that every
And
month.
you don't have to if you set up that automatic transfer where it's like that's taken care of.
Yeah, your bills are taken care of. You have automatic savings happening.
Yep.
Your rent's set aside, whatever. All your shit's set aside, so you know that whatever's in there, you're okay.
Right, and you get to spend whatever you want. And then just be smart
with it.
Yeah. This is a very specific mistake that I see, but it's so worth talking about.
Yes, please.
So something like a Roth IRA or a 401k, these are both retirement accounts, right? They're investing accounts for retirement. And I see this especially with women, is they believe that that is the investment itself. So if you put money into a Roth IRA, it's not like a bank account where you can put money in and be like, cool, I'm done. You have to not only put money into the account, but you then need to go buy things with the money. So it's like a gift card, right? You like put $50 on a TJ Maxx gift card. Now you need to go buy your plants and candles and throw pillows, right?
Okay.
The Roth IRA is just the account that holds the investments. It is not the investment itself.
Okay.
So I will see people put, let's say, $500 into a Roth IRA. They will just put it into the account and they're like, cool, it's invested. It is not. It is in financial purgatory. It is just sitting there waiting to be invested. You have to take that $500 and go buy something like an index fund or a stock or a bond.
Got it.
And we explain what all of these are in the book. But this is like literally costing people millions of dollars.
Right, because they're not actually investing.
And I tell this story in the book about this woman named Rose. I was sitting on a panel, back in like 2019, and this woman was a financial advisor, and she worked with this teacher who was diligently putting money in her 401k every single month for 35 years, but she had never actually invested the money. So she, went to, it like literally makes me cry every time I talk about it. She went, at 65 to her financial advisor. She's like, okay, cool, I'm ready to finally retire, on my teacher's salary. And they're like, you have $300,000. Now, that sounds like a lot, but $300,000 for 30 years, right?
No, it's not
when
at
it
all.
literally could have been $3, $4, $5 million.
Why did her financial advisor not invest her 401k?
I don't, but that's the thing is it's like, unless I think she just like saw her once to like, figure out her retirement but that is something I'm seeing all of the time because no one's fucking teaching people this.
Yeah. Hey, listeners, I hope you're enjoying my conversation with Tori. I hope you're learning tons about developing your personal finance and your emotions around your personal finance. I want to remind you that the producers of this podcast, Onomy, already have a ton of great content to help support you in developing your personal finance, available for free at onomy.co. They've got videos on retirement funds, budgeting, investing, and everything you need to know to start making money moves now. Check it all out at onomy.co. And now, back to the show.
When you log into like Fidelity or Vanguard and all of this seems so complicated, my not so conspiracy theory is that that's on purpose.
For sure.
So that you pay somebody the 2 or 3% to manage it for you.
For sure.
And also they're bad at their jobs. Like we know from data that they're like stock pickers are not good at their jobs. Cats outperform them all the time.
Yeah, because it's hard to be good at.
No one's good at it.
That's what I mean.
It's
all gambling. It's all gambling.
I shouldn't say it's actually not all. Let me debunk that for you.
Please.
So there is certain investing that is gambling because this is actually a common misconception. And here's it's like investing is gambling, so I'm not going to do it. Day trading, like crypto bullshit, like anything that's like a day-to-day 100% gambling. It is a game.
Yeah.
And if you are like trying to get rich off this hot stock, like you are gambling. Yeah. It's just like putting money in a slot machine or on a racehorse.
Yeah.
That is all it is.
Number or color.
Totally. there's long-term investing, which is what investing should be.
Yes.
That is not gambling. It's consistent. I joke that investing
like
should be
index
sexy.
funds
Exactly.
yes.
Index funds are like groups of stocks, right? So rather than just buying like Amazon or Pepsi or Bumble, you can buy one index fund that has a bunch of different companies in it. And that's what I teach. I co-created an investing education platform called Treasury because it was literally, people were coming to me with this Roth IRA problem where they were like, I put money in and I'm not seeing anything. And I'm like, oh yeah, because it's been in there 3 years and it's never been invested.
Wow.
Or I log into my account and I don't know what to choose.
Yeah.
And so we actually start people with an Investing 101 workshop live. And 80% of the people who come in have never invested before. And we have $32 million invested in the platform. They literally at like minute 40 of the workshop make an investment and they walk out of the workshop investors. But that's the thing I'm seeing is it's either women not investing, people not investing because it's too intimidating, or it is gambling. And it's like, actually, you won't be able to retire if you don't invest. And because it's so veiled and no one's teaching, there's these common pitfalls or mistakes that are just, so normal, but no one's teaching it.
Yeah, I want to highlight what you just said for the listeners. If you don't invest, you can't retire.
Yeah.
And when we're young, that's hard to even think about caring about because
the world's burning. And like, what does it matter?
The future's so far away. It's just like, why do I need to think about that? But if you imagine working the same way you're working now when you're fucking 80, like that's awful. That's why people save is so that they can retire. So at a certain point you go, I don't need to work anymore. I have X amount of money.
And I picture grandma me, and I have people do this in the book of like, what does, grandparent you look like? What does like Nana Tori look like?
Yeah.
And she is flirting with her much younger Pilates instructor named Luca, and she is drinking Sauvignon Blanc with lunch, and like she's rescuing dogs in her Tuscan villa. And
I knew Italy was going to be a part of it.
Oh, of course. And it's like, if I, as a 28-year-old, am not doing a little bit of heavy lifting, that's not going to be her reality.
Yeah.
And like contextualizing of like, this is future you.
Yeah.
And you don't want cute little grandparent you to be financially struggling.
I mean, ask yourself how your grandparents lived. Maybe some of you have wealthy grandparents. I didn't. My grandmothers were very... They were, on the edge of their bank account their entire lives.
My grandparents on my dad's side never left the same house because it was like that was all they could afford. And Latrobe, Pennsylvania, which is like an hour outside of Pittsburgh, like tiny little town.
My family's tiny town outside Scranton, Pennsylvania. Yeah.
I didn't know you were PA.
Yeah, PA. People
Are you a
think
Steeler
Scranton's
fan?
Small. Philly, we're Eagles.
Oh,
Yes,
because you're on the
sorry,
Scranton.
babe.
Oh no! This interview
Eagles.
is over. You're doing great this year, though.
I know.
We're shit.
One more game. We got the Super Bowl. But yeah, so a lot of my family lives in a small town. You think Scranton's small? They live outside. Scranton's very small, and just my Nana. I would have loved for my Nana to have money later in her life.
Did you have a Nana too? I have a Nana.
Yeah. For her to have like freedom and money in her life, even though she was content. She was she was all right.
And again, you work for so long.
That's it. She worked her ass off.
And unless,
her whole
again,
life.
It's like all of these systemic factors, which again are huge.
Yeah.
Like we control the things we can control. And of that, like, do you want that for 65-year-old you?
Exactly. And I'm glad you said that too, because look, there are tons of problems we can all see with our systems, right?
Oh, huge.
Of course, I'm more on the democratic socialist side of things. I understand problems with capitalism, but I don't think capitalism itself is the problem. It's that there's no fucking morality in our capitalism.
Any system would be flawed because it's humans doing it.
Yes.
But I do think that our current capitalist,
that's what I mean. It's not capitalism itself. It's our version of it.
It's murky. I say in the book that like I don't want to win capitalism because that means I have exploited somebody.
Right.
But I can't lose capitalism either because that means deep suffering for myself and for my community.
Exactly.
So it's just like, how do I navigate and survive capitalism, and how do I do the best I can? And then, again, this is for me, like the definition of financial feminism is like, if you can get your own financial shit together and control the things you can control, if you can put on your own oxygen mask, then you get to help others, right? Because you're taken care of. And we get to create a plane where every single person gets an oxygen mask.
Exactly. Yeah, you can create in your own life, you can control what you can control.
And start to change the society that exists
that's
for
what
everybody.
I was going to say. You can start to create from your own sphere of influence.
Yep.
But banking on massive things that are out of your control to change, even if they're unfair, unjust, all these things, and letting that prevent you from playing the game that we actually live in, it doesn't help you, and it doesn't help anybody, and it doesn't help those around you. So yeah, as much as I have critiques on our systems, I know most of them, it's hard to change these deeply embedded systems. It's not quick. So within the system we have, what can you control? How do you create your own freedom?
And the pursuit of wealth is not wrong.
It's not. That's another misconception.
Been conditioned again to believe, oh, if I pursue wealth, it's greedy or it's wrong or and it's like, it's a stack of government issued paper. It has no moral value, right? What you do with it, of course, there's plenty of people out here doing great things with money. There's plenty of people out here doing not so great things with money.
But pursuing it is not inherently wrong.
And we are also, we're conditioned, I think the gender divide with the pursuit of wealth is so interesting. We encourage men to pursue wealth in the way that we don't for women.
Sure.
And so I think a lot of us, just generally, regardless of your gender identity, push away money.
Yeah.
Because it's like, oh, that's bad, that's wrong. I don't want to be like that rich kid that I met when I was in high school.
Sure.
And it's just like, I don't want to do that. And it's like, actually, if you're pursuing wealth for the right reasons, which is your own stability and your own choices, not only is that definitely not selfish, that is that's the thing that's going to be able to give you the options and the choices.
Yeah, I think that is a huge thing. It's been a big part of my transitioning into my adulthood, my manhood, that journey of the right amount of selfishness. I think that's something a lot of young people need to make the turn into is, you need to take care of your life. You need to decide that you are responsible for your life and confront it. And sometimes that means kind of blocking off, even for a time, how much you're giving or listening or connecting with other people's problems. And really the only way you're going to get financially free is you got to take it deep inside yourself. You have to go okay, I need to do this.
You can't pour from an empty cup.
Exactly. I need to say that I'm worth pursuing this.
Yes.
That I'm worth figuring this out, that I want to, and that I can. And I think that's a transition a lot of us young people need to make. But I guess people of any age, that transition's murky.
Well,
so I think there's still people. It's
the worthiness of it. And that's the interesting thing, because now we get messages every day from people, largely women, who are like, I paid off $20,000 of credit card debt, or I saved my first $1,000, or I negotiated a 10% raise. And it's always, the financial win and then a comma. And I feel so much more confident in every aspect of my life now.
Exactly.
And I'm like, I don't have to put up with shit from anybody.
Yeah.
If I go out on a date and it's not going well, but he has a bunch of money, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I leave. I actually put my card down and I'm like,
Bye.
It's nice to meet you. Have a good night.
I love it.
I don't have to take on a client, even if they're a very lucrative one. We had 50 to 60% of our business last year was one client, and they started getting really murky and not treating our people well. And I was like, we're walking. And that was really difficult because we had to, it was scramble for a while. But we had the ability to do that I'm not going to play that game.
Yeah.
And what an incredible
you
feeling.
Actually get to have boundaries and self-worth when you have the capacity.
When money's not the thing that has to drive you.
Yeah.
And that is the feeling I want for every single person on this planet.
For sure. I mean, I think most of us have been there. The jobs that I went and got, some of them were fine, but
other than were toxic.
I definitely had to put up with some toxic shit because I needed the paycheck.
Right.
And what that does to your own self-worth when if I had the ability to fucking say what I want to say right now and money wasn't tied to this, I would, but I can't. So what am I worth? I'm worth this fucking paycheck and eating this shit, That's not a comfortable place to be, and I think it's a place so many of us are in jobs, in our lives.
Yeah, it's the ability to speak truth.
Yeah. And I guess the more financial freedom you have, the more ability you can speak your truth.
Yeah.
Nice. Nice. We're all learning, Tori.
And again, that grace and that mercy is really hard, but it's really important. And also the realization that nothing changes when you're comfortable. Like embroider that on a fucking throw pillow. Like live, laugh, love. But like truly, like
no, it's real.
Nothing changes when you're comfortable.
Yeah.
And there's going to be a period of time with money, with, you know, with everything in your life where you're like, okay, I want better and I want more, and it's scary. And you have to get comfortable being uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Like sitting down and looking at your money is the thing that people are like.
It's why budgeting is.
Right. Ostrich effect. You bury your head in the sand. You're like, my problems don't exist.
Yeah.
But they do. And they will only continue to get worse. And so what I tell people is like, wrap yourself in like a down comforter cocoon.
Yeah.
And get yourself a glass bottle of wine and just like sit down and look at your money.
Yeah.
And we call it financial self-care because self-care is the hard shit that you do that makes future you's life better.
Yeah.
But in the moment sucks, right? It's like going to therapy and going to the gym and eating a salad when you don't want to eat a motherfucking salad. Like that is the self-care. Where you thank past you of like, oh, I'm really glad I went to the gym, or I'm really glad I cleaned my kitchen counter before I went on this trip, which is what I'm feeling right now. I cleaned my kitchen before I left, and it was like the worst.
No, but
it's
then
the
you're
worst.
Gonna walk home.
Exactly. I'm gonna be like, oh,
good.
thank
Instead
you.
of like, oh, I've been on this trip and now I need to clean.
Right. And like that's the definition of self-care.
Yeah.
But we think it's like, you know, face masks and bubble baths and like that's self-soothing, which is important, but that's the thing.
Part of it.
That's the thing you do when you've had a bad day.
Yeah.
Self-care is the thing you do proactively, even if it makes you uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And part of that's looking at your money.
Yeah, I think as we grow, there's still a child inside of us, and I mean, you better hope that child's
the
still
inner
alive
child.
in you, right? But as we grow deeper into our adulthood, you learn, I have to parent that child. I have to be the parent for my own inner child who doesn't want to do this shit, who wants the instant gratification, who wants all these things. And you have to learn to kind of like let these different beings inside you both be taken care of. And that requires parenting yourself, which I'm still learning how to do.
And I mean, I'll say it, I've said it like 6 times, so I'll say it again. When you're a kid, did you like being yelled at? Did you ever like being told you were a piece of shit?
Yeah.
No. You liked being soothed and like
or
given
taught.
Feedback when you given feedback when you need, but in a very loving, kind way.
Yep.
And like I joke that like if I need a lot of like internal love, I literally like make my voice like Paddington or something. Like I can't have Paddington Bear yell at me.
Yeah.
Like it just so I purposely make like my inner voice just like so sweet and kind.
Yeah.
And like that's a great way of like navigating that.
Yeah, I was at a birthday of a friend last night, and she was saying she's like been making a shift in the last few months of just talking to herself really kindly. And she used like a kind of caricature voice of like, oh, hey, you doing okay?
You doing all right? I know it's really hard. Life's really hard right now, but that's okay.
But also
why are you from
like,
Minnesota?
I don't know.
Minnesota, don't you know?
But treating yourself like that is so good because, the shame doesn't do anything. I also find, personally, there is a level of, this also comes from who my mother is, but I also find there's a level of loving sternness that I can talk to myself with.
Totally. That's why I say, like, feedback, right?
I don't always need...
No, you don't need to be coddled.
Sometimes I need the gentle when I'm really in my demons and beating myself up. But sometimes I need a very direct, like, hey, man...
It's not going to get better unless you do something.
Yeah, look around. Yep. Get on this shit.
Right.
It's falling apart around you.
But I would argue that's loving, right?
Exactly.
Because it's
loving
like,
voice. It's not punitive.
No, and it's also like, hey, I want you to be better.
Exactly.
Because good feedback wants you to be better. It does not want to tear you down.
Absolutely.
Right? So good feedback is like, hey, I see you're struggling, but we got to get this shit done.
Absolutely.
We got to get this shit done.
What is the first step someone should take listening to this to progress in their financial life?
Read my book. No, I'm kidding. I will shameless plug wherever I can.
It's not a bad step. To be honest.
Agree. Get it at your library.
Education is not a bad step. And I'm sure just because it's called Financial Feminist, I'm sure men can read it as well.
Feminists are of any gender
That's
identity
true.
as long as you believe in the equality of genders.
Cool.
That's a piece of feedback we get all the time of like, I'm a man or I'm not a woman. Can I read it? And I'm like, do you believe in the equality of genders? Yes, you can read it. Great.
Cool.
Again, with all the grace and mercy in the world,
Yep.
look at your money. Like sit down and again, make it comfortable, make it something you look forward to. Maybe that's takeout from your favorite restaurant. If you have a partner you manage money with, like bring them into the conversation and like, what's going well? That's your first question. Like, what am I doing well? And you will have it. I need you to have at least one answer.
Cool.
You can't just be like, everything's shit. No, like, what are you doing well?
Yeah.
Yep. What could I improve? And what is one thing that I can do today to make my money better? Right? Maybe it's setting up that automatic transfer. Maybe it is, okay, I'm going to schedule my next money date that's completely non-negotiable, and then I'm going to sit down and look at my money, and I'm going to do this once a month, right? Okay, I'm scheduling my next one. I am going to journal about, what I can use and how money can be a tool to build the life that I want. Like, how can I use money, not as the barrier, not as the thing that's preventing me, but rather as the tool to be able to build the life that I want, right? So it's what's going well, what can I improve, and what is one tiny little baby step? It's not going to be save $1 million by tomorrow, right? It's just one thing that I can do to better my money.
Amazing. What is your favorite app or website for?
I mean, I co-created an investing platform called Treasury, and I mean, again, shameless plug, but like, I think it's better than anything out there, or we wouldn't have built it. I'm trying to think of other apps. We have partnerships with various people. Like Personal Capital is great, SoFi is great,
and not just for investing, because you said like you're automating savings happening. Like, are
but
there
you can
apps
actually
that
you can
handle
go
that?
No, you can go to your payroll platform at work if you have a 9 to 5, or you can go to like your online bank. Like if you're banking wherever, you can say, okay, like
any
it literally
money that
just
comes in.
Yep. Like, okay,
goes
whenever I
savings.
get paid, so maybe it's the 15th and the 31st or whatever. Like, okay, this is my $500 that I'm transferring, or my $20, or my 5% of the paycheck.
Yeah.
And yeah, you can go in, and I still do this. I have like in my bank of like, okay, twice a month, this amount of money is leaving my checking account and going to my savings.
So good. And does your savings make money? Does it have a whatever?
Yeah.
What is it
So
called?
high yield savings account
That's
is
what
what
I'm
we
talking
recommend. Yeah. We have our link to the one that we like on our website, but literally the average bank account's earning you like 0.5%, like less than that.
Yeah.
And high yield savings accounts, as of this recording, are like 3.5%, 4%. And
bad.
it's again like not
For a while they were nothing. For a while they were nothing.
Like less than 1%.
So I stopped giving a fuck about saving.
But if your money's just going to sit there, which is like an emergency fund, right? We
Right.
just want it to sit there. It may as well be working harder for you.
Yeah, it may as well be growing something. Yeah.
Yeah.
So savings accounts, guys, for those who really don't know, the goal is that if it's going to sit there, there's some percentage where it makes money every year.
And your average bank account is not earning you anything.
For sure.
But the high yield savings accounts typically are offered online because, they don't have the overhead costs of like tellers, bank tellers, and like physical locations. So they're like passing the savings on to you. So yeah, it's like 3.5%, 4%. And like that adds up, especially if you're the person who's like, okay, all I got is $20 right now. Right. Great.
Put that in it.
Put it in it, and it's going to generate interest for you.
At the end of the year, you're going to have more.
And actually, a lot of these accounts pay interest monthly, which is really cool.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
And what are other good places to put your money? What, CDs? Are those still a thing?
I love that you know what a CD is.
Yeah.
CD,
they were a thing once.
I remember a 4% CD when I was 12.
Yeah,
and I remember
same.
being like, 4% is nothing, and I would murder for a 4%
Exactly.
CD
That's
right
what I'm saying. I remember some good ones from back in the day, but then they kind of died for a while.
I mean, CD is a certificate of deposit. It's kind of like a souped up high yield savings account, right? In theory,
basically, you say, I'm tucking away my money and I'm not going to pull it out for X amount of time.
And they're like incentivizing that with, in theory, more interest.
Yes.
I haven't looked at them recently.
I think they came back a little bit.
They've come back a little bit. Most savings, I think, are better off in a high yield savings account because of that flexibility, and it's not like a big enough percentage jump.
Cool.
But if like, okay, I'm not buying a house for 3 years, and so I can open a 2-year or 3-year CD, and the interest rate is 5% or whatever, like it might be worthwhile.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. And then investing. And to invest, there's a million ways to go about it.
Yes.
You have a platform to do it.
Yeah, there's kind of like 3 ways, right? You can DIY it. Vanguard, Fidelity, TD Ameritrade, Charles Schwab, right?
Yep.
The benefit is, of course, you're managing your own investments. You're not paying somebody else, so there's no additional fees. But the con, and I would imagine the average listener out there, is not feel equipped to manage their own investments.
Yeah.
Totally cool. Robo-advisors are, Ellevest, Betterment, Acorns, Wealthfront, Wealthsimple, bunch of others. And they are taking a percentage to do it for you. So it's great to get people started.
Yeah.
But the feedback I hear a lot is, again, one, you're paying money. And they're fishing for you rather than teaching you how to fish. So, you can invest for a while and be like, I don't know why they're choosing the things that they're choosing or what they're doing behind the scenes.
Right.
And so we built what we joke is the Hannah Montana of investing platforms because it's the best of both worlds. I'm sorry to bring up Disney on a Nickelodeon show.
No, we're all friends here. We're not corporate competitors. We're all acting equals.
I
just love
medium.
that like you're like a millennial finance expert quoting Hannah Montana.
Always. It's my favorite part in workshops because I get to go to just the slide of Hannah Montana.
Oh God, that's really funny. That brings me a lot of joy.
Yeah. So yeah, it's like the happy medium. Best of both worlds.
Cool.
Chill it out. Remember the limo? She would get out of the limo and then she would like toss her hair around, and no one figured it out. That she was Hannah Montana.
Ridiculous.
You just take off a wig. If I could put on a wig and just walk through life as a different person, great.
It was a fantasy world.
It was a fantasy
Surprise!
world.
It wasn't real, Tori.
It wasn't real. I know.
So you've created the Hannah Montana app
Of investing platforms, yeah.
where it's a mix of you.
Yeah, so it's like built on top of one of the DIY platforms. So
Okay.
we're teaching you how to manage your own investments for yourself. We're giving you a community to come ask questions and where we can talk you down when you're like, the stock market's going crazy and I don't know what to do. And we're there to soothe you and be like, hey, we're in this for the long term. And I know it's scary, but we got it. There's daily challenges. There's investing 101 videos and stuff. And so it's like the school of investing, basically.
I love it. I love it.
Thanks.
Let's all check it out, listeners and me. I don't have much experience with investing, but I will say, get out of the gamble. Don't be in gambling with investing.
If it's sexy, you're probably doing it wrong.
Yeah, look at it as stop trying to get rich quick. I don't play the lottery ever because fucking why, dude? It's a scam.
It's something I wish I knew the percentage off the top of my head. It's something like 35% of people expect to win the lottery at some point, and that's their retirement plan.
Yeah, it's absurd. And I'm speaking as someone who's playing the lottery in my life because I'm trying to make it as an actor still. That is a lottery, but it's a little different. But I don't play the lottery. I would just suggest to anyone, don't try and gamble your way into getting rich. Look at long-term goals. When you invest,
and it's not as fun and flashy, and I get that, but
But man, if you invest at 20.
So my 100K at 25 is going to be 1.6 million by the time I retire, even if I never contribute another penny.
It's incredible. That's incredible.
And compound interest works if you're 18 or 88.
Right.
You don't have to be 25 if you're 35, if you're 45. It still works.
Right.
But you have to get started.
Yeah.
And I joke investing's like a staircase. Just that first stair is 20 feet high. So I just got to get you over to that first stair, and then it's easy.
I'm really glad you came in because this is going to force me to do it. So because I had a bunch of investments and savings, right? But because I was spending it to live and waiting on that next job, which always came for me. It wasn't like I was delusional. The next job always came.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden it didn't.
Yeah.
And I had pulled out my investments because it was well,
I need
this
it.
was it. Yeah, I need it now. This is investments for my future, but I need it now, and it's okay. I'll book. And then I didn't. So everything came out. So I've had nothing in investments because then I was working my way back from absolutely nothing.
Right.
And I've known for a year or two, all right, it's time to start plugging a little bit back into something that's long-term that can actually make me money. And I think talking to you today is going to force me to actually take those steps.
I love it.
Yeah. I hate it.
My goal is to make you hate it a little less.
I feel like I could hate it. I'm already feeling a little more freedom around it.
Yay.
And I hate it because of, again, you asked my early money. I hate it because I never had to think about it. And all of a sudden I did. Yeah. And that's adulthood.
That's everything. As you wake up one day and you're like, taxes.
Exactly. The doctor, I got a call.
The doctor.
The dentist.
Uh-huh.
I'm supposed to go how many times a year?
And my insurance, I pay for the insurance, but it doesn't completely
cover it. Yeah, what's the point of all this?
What the fuck is a copay?
Oh my goodness. Well, Tori, you're awesome. Are we good on time?
Thank you.
Yeah, we're in the sweet spot. Need to fill any more? Anyone got any questions I should ask? That felt real good and complete to me.
Cool.
Okay, we'll sign off properly. Ramy can cut that bit out. But Tori, thanks so much for being here.
Thank you for having
It's
me.
so lovely to meet you, and I'm so inspired by your success, and not just your success, but that you are bringing the rest of us along with you.
It's my life's work, so thanks for advocating for it.
I love that. Make sure you follow Tori on all the things. Her first 100K?
Yeah.
Yeah, your TikTok is popping off. I love it.
Thank you.
On
TikTok.
On TikTok, I put up a video asking people who
people tagged
who
me
I
in
should
it.
have on the podcast, and you are one of the most tagged
Which
people.
is so kind. It speaks to the community, which is so cool.
It does. It speaks to the community. It speaks to like our overlap, and I loved it because I didn't know who you were, and then so many people tagged you that I was like, who is this person? And talked to Rami and was like, we got to have her on. Like, so many people are tagging this person.
Thanks.
And it's such a needed thing. More of us need to be in the habit of discussing money and discussing what we don't know and talking to people who do know.
Well, and if you want anything in life, like, you need money. Anything. You
Fun,
need money.
freedom, travel.
Right.
Kids,
not kids.
a pet. Man.
Therapy, unfortunately.
Therapy,
You need money.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. The amount of times I look at my cat and I say, pay rent once. Once, man.
Once.
Come on.
Once.
Yeah. Well, thank you. It's great to know you now.
Thanks for having me.
I'd love to see you again. And
love that.
congrats on your book.
Thank you.
Financial Feminist, New
you.
York Times bestseller.
Yay! Put my entire pussy in that book, so thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Awesome.
You're like, we can cut that. At the
Awesome.
end.
No, it's amazing.
Thank
Cool.
you.
We're done.
Cool.
Tori, amazing.
I have a copy of the book if you want it.
I'd love one.
Cool.
Yeah, I really would. I will start learning.
Thanks for listening to that Onomy podcast. Onomy is a creator-led educational platform that teaches you the things you wished you learned in school so you can thrive in adulthood. Onomy lessons are completely free, and they're taught by some of your favorite creators from around the internet. Head to onomy.co to start learning about things like budgeting, investing, taxes, how to thrive in your relationships, how to find your dream job, and so much more. That's onomy.co, onomy.co. See you there.